cbgray. Hop in the range, take off into space.
Hey guys, it's cbgray coming to you guys live with another Destiny video. How are you guys doing today? So in today's video, guys, I want to make a video talking about the Nightfall weapons as we have before in the past, but we're going to be doing something a little differently this time. I know traditionally on the channel, we usually make the how many videos for how long it takes to get certain Nightfall weapons, such as d.f.a, which is one of the most successful videos on the channel, so I have to thank you guys for that again. And before I get started, I also want to let you guys know that we are going to be giving away a PS4 Pro on Friday on our charity stream that's going towards Toys for Tots, and that's gonna start 1 p.m. Eastern, so I hope to see each and every one of you guys there, and make sure to subscribe to the channel if you want a chance to win that PS4 Pro. So let's get started on what we're going to be talking about today. So we're going to be ranking all of the Nightfall weapons from worst to best, and even though I say worst, guys, I want to preface this with, I really don't think any of the Nightfall weapons are particularly bad or are actually like the worst. It's just some are better than others, and we're going to be breaking down how they perform in PvE and PvP and kind of give them an overall ranking based on both of those categories. I know some might excel in one category and might underperform in another, and that might lead to lower rankings than what you guys might think. And obviously this is just my opinion, so if you guys have different opinions, you guys let me know in the comment box below, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about what the best weapon is and what the worst weapon is. So at the bottom, guys, and this kind of pains me to say it because I actually do really like the weapon, I'm putting the Silicon Neuroma, which is the Nightfall sniper that you can get out of the Pyramidion Nightfall. And so the perks that this thing has is aggressive frame, polygonal rifling, corkscrew rifling, and arrowhead break as options for the scopes. Then you have accurized round and flared mag, and then you have snapshot sights, and you have opening shot. And so the standout perk with this, I believe, is snapshot sights, as this weapon readies really quickly. And I'm going to start off on the PvP side of things. This weapon is really good, and it's definitely a viable option for a primary sniper if you don't have Alone as a God, as it really readies fast, and I also think it's a no scoping machine. It's really easy to aim, it's really stable, and you can really hit a lot of headshots and chain those. And so I really think if you're running a Luna's Howl or any type of trust and you still want to use a sniper in the primary slot, I think this is going to be a great option for you. However, when we go over to the PvE side of things, this thing just isn't the best primary weapon you could choose for PvE. I mean, I'd rather see somebody using some type of pulse, some type of midnight coup, or even if you're going to use a sniper, I would rather see a secondary sniper probably used with some type of box breathing, as it's just not really going to cut into ads the way that you're probably expecting it to. It's not very strong, and the fact that it doesn't have a burn means you can't even use certain burns and nightfalls or strikes to your advantage when you're using it in PvE. So overall, a great PvP weapon, but just a very mediocre PvE weapon, which is why it has kind of a ranking right at the bottom. It's no hard feelings to the weapon, as I really do like it, and I've been using it since way back in Curse of Osiris, but overall it's just not that great in PvE, so that's why it has a slot at the bottom. So the next weapon, guys, that we're going to have, and this might be a little bit of a surprise, but I'm putting the Warden's Law next. And this hand cannon has the potential to be one of the top weapons up at the top, and I say that strongly meaning that, as it has a perk. And first, let's kind of, before we talk about the perk, talk about the weapon. The weapon has the ability to shoot 2 shots per shot. So what I mean by that is 2 bullets come out of every time you shoot the gun. So it's a double bursting hand cannon. And so what's cool about that is on the curated roll, it's supposed to have a perk where you can shoot 3 headshots in a row, and you're supposed to have ammo going back into the mag when you're shooting those 3 shots in a row to the head. But unfortunately, you would think that since it's a double burst that it would only require 2 headshots to proc that perk, but the 2 bullets that come from every shot don't actually count as 2 headshots. It still counts as 1. Therefore, the perk doesn't trigger until you shoot the gun 3 times, which actually equals 6 shots. And so in PvE, it dramatically affects the weapon's ability to really cut into enemies and to have the same amount of effectiveness as a midnight coup, I think its best perk could have been that you had ammo all the time and basically you're shooting endless bullets because you're landing 2 headshots and you're getting ammo back into the mag. But unfortunately, it just doesn't work like that. You take it over to the PvP side of things and it still really underperforms. If you get a decent roll like I did, I have one with Outlaw and Rampage, it can be decent, but I still don't like it over some other hand cannons in the Crucible right now. I still found myself getting outgunned by almost every single pulse rifle because it does fire kind of slow. But if you do proc Rampage, this is a great gun. It will cut into enemies and you can go on killing sprees if you play Rampage right, or Kill Clip if you're able to get that. It's still a decent weapon, but because of it failing to live up to its potential, that's why it has a spot just almost at the bottom of the list. The next few weapons on our list can kind of go either way, but I kind of just made split decisions on it and I'm just going to run with it. And if you guys think that one of the weapons is better than another weapon, I'd probably be able to be convinced that you're correct, but we're just going to go with it. So the next weapon on our list is the Long Goodbye, which is another sniper rifle that is actually in the secondary slot this time, which makes it a little bit better than the Silicon Aroma for PvE because it does have a burn that you can then use according to an actual burn in a Nightfall or a burn in a Strike and use it to your advantage and cut through ads a little bit better. So this weapon is going to perform much better in PvE, but it's still just going to underperform compared to some of its counterparts such as the Escalation Protocol Sniper that has box breathing, or the Dreaming City Sniper that also can have box breathing as well with the correct roll. There's just other weapons that are still better than it in the PvE standpoint, and when you go over to PvP, it actually is a beast. It's a little different, it looks a little old school, and it's definitely not a reskin, which I really like about it. It looks very unique, and the scope is kind of strange, and it takes a second to get used to it because it's not the little circle retina, but it's the little triangle, so it takes a second to get used to it. But once you do, you find that it really snaps to people's heads, and the curated roll has a really weird roll where it has rangefinder and rapid hit, where you don't really think that it helps, but it somehow works though in a strange way. In the PvE standpoint, it's a good gun, or if I said PvE I meant PvP. It's a good gun for getting headshots and for really going on little killing sprees in the Crucible. I think it's viable, and I think if you don't have a better sniper rifle in the secondary slot, and if you're using something like a Pulse or a Duke or something, this can be a really good complement to that weapon, and so that's why it earned the spot that it did. Next on our list, guys, we have the only auto rifle that's a Nightfall exclusive weapon, and that's called the Duty Bound that goes in the kinetic slot. So off of first use, this gun can have the feeling that it's very average, and in a lot of ways it is, and what really sets it apart is kind of the same thing that's going to set the d.f.a apart, is that it rolls with Rampage every single time, and with Rampage being one of its main perks, it really means that in PvE you can stack this perk, especially with it being an auto rifle, and really be good about crowd control. And once you get to Rampage times 3, you can even mow down pretty big enemies pretty fast as well. It's just a very reliable auto rifle. It's not that hard to use, it's not that flashy, there's nothing that special about it outside of Rampage, but it does get the job done. Now, do I think it's better than some of its kinetic adversaries? No, I don't. But do I think it's definitely still a decent weapon? I do, and I think it can substitute for other things, especially if you're just an auto rifle type of guy. And even when you go over to the Crucible, the handling still isn't that bad, and you can actually still get kills from a decent distance, as you can see me doing here. And once you get Rampage going, it is a lot easier to get kills. Now, would I ever use this in comparison to any other real Crucible weapon? Probably not. But can you actually get kills with it? I do believe you can. I just don't think that it's the best option, but I do think that it's just a very... Like, you know, if you're taking Nintendo, like Mario as a character is just very all around. There's nothing really special about him. He doesn't have really anything extraordinary in any of the stats, any of the Mario games like some of the other characters do, but he's just the most balanced. That would be the Duty Bound, I feel like. It's just kind of there. It's not bad, it's not good, it's just the Duty Bound. And so moving right along, guys, we have the Malicious Birthright, which is a really interesting grenade launcher, guys, because you'd think that it would be in the heavy slot, but it's not. So then you say, well, maybe it's in the secondary slot, in the energy weapon slot, but it's not there either. It's not a fighting lion. it's actually in the kinetic slot, and it's the only kinetic grenade launcher in the game, and allows you to run triple grenade launchers if you really wanted to. I don't know why you'd ever want to, but if you ever wanted to be that guy, you could be that guy. And so this is a really interesting one, guys, because I ranked it as high as I did, kind of because of its uniqueness, because of the fact that it is kind of one of a kind. So it doesn't really super duper excel in PvE or PvP, but it actually is a viable option for both slots. And so let me kind of break that down. So in PvE, if you're running a secondary pulse or a secondary hand cannon, you can use a grenade launcher in your primary slot, and you can have something like a Whisper of the Worm in your heavy slot, where even though you have a sniper as your heavy, you can still have something that is really good with crowd control. As you can see, Malicious Birthright can really clear a lot of ads really fast. The blast radius actually isn't too bad, and it really does a decent job of clearing a lot of enemies in PvE. Now in PvP, I found myself having a little bit of a harder time actually being competitive with it. I was able to make some plays with it, as if you can get the grenade launcher bullets to actually spray on people and actually explode when they're supposed to explode, it can actually be really decent. But when it's not doing what it's supposed to do, and when it's not exploding based off of proximity, it's kind of average. And so it's something that I suggest you definitely grind for and see if you like, because like I said, it is a supplement for if you don't want to use a grenade launcher in the heavy slot. In PvP, you could also use a primary in your secondary slot and then be able to have a grenade launcher in your primary, and that's kind of interesting, and that's why I kind of ranked it the way that I did. And so moving from there, guys, we have my favorite Nightfall weapon, and so I might be a little biased, but it is the d.f.a, and it's a weapon that has just been highly sought after. As I could see from some of the videos that I've made on it, they've been some of the best on the channel. And a lot of people really loved this gun back before Forsaken, because it was really known as the gun to use if you didn't have Midnight Coup, because it's guaranteed to have Rampage on it. It doesn't have Outlaw, but Rampage is just such a useful perk in PvE, because of the fact that you kill one, it stacks one, you kill two, it stacks two, all the way up to three, and then you can just keep that 3 stack going and just mow into all different types of ads, and it does a really good job. And since hand cannons have kind of been buffed going into Forsaken, it's also very viable in PvP too. If you can get one kill with a Rampage, or if you can get a kill that procs Rampage, you can do a really good job after that of honestly getting 2 or 3 or more kills by just continuing to get your kill, have Rampage proc, get your kill, have Rampage proc, and really just using that to your advantage. This is a gun that I definitely suggest grinding for, as it looks really cool. It's definitely not a reskin. It looks very Cabal-like, as it comes from a Cabal strike. And it's just one of those guns that I think even for collection purposes you should just go ahead and get if you haven't already. And instead of grinding for a hand cannon that you like to try to roll Rampage, this one guarantees Rampage. So if you do have it, I feel like you'll like it. So next, guys, we have the only heavy weapon Nightfall exclusive in the game right now, and that's the Braytech Osprey, and it comes from the Nokris Nightfall. And this is a beast, and the reason why is because, especially before Forsaken, cluster bomb rocket launchers were pretty hard to come by. The majority of people would either use Sins of the Past or Curtain Call. Those were usually the two that you would use if you didn't have Braytech. But if you had Braytech, then you wouldn't necessarily need to be able to beat the raid to get the Sins of the Past, nor would you need to get lucky and get Curtain Call. I know some people that didn't have either of those. And so if you're able to do Nightfalls but you just can't quite beat the raid, Braytech Osprey was a really good option. Now obviously there's other rocket launchers in the game now, such as Sleepless and all these other rockets that are now available that do roll with cluster bombs a lot, but even still, if you just are wanting a guaranteed roll on a rocket launcher that has cluster bombs, Braytech's gonna be a great option. It's very strong, as you guys can see. It's great at crowd control, excuse me. It's great at clearing ads. It does shoot kinda slow, but it does get the job done. I do think it can be substituted for any other rocket out there. I mean, unless you just get a god roll, Braytech Osprey can usually compete. on both the PvE and the PvP front. On PvP it's not too bad. I still just wouldn't use it, preferably because I just think that there's faster firing rockets if I was really going to use a rocket. But that's not to say that you can't get a bunch of kills in Crucible with the Braytech Osprey. It can still get multi kills, it can still get you single kills, and I just think that if you are wanting to run a rocket, this could be the rocket for you in PvP or PvE. And that's why I gave it such a pretty good ranking, because it's just good in both. It's not really bad, and it's the only power weapon too in the Nightfall exclusives, so I think this is one that you should definitely pick up if you do get a chance, especially with the Nocris Nightfall being active. For the rest of this past week, I think by the time this video goes live, it won't be out anymore. So the next time this Nightfall comes out, definitely make sure to give it a try. The next gun on the list, guys, is the Horror's Least, and this gun really grew on me. So this is the only Nightfall pulse rifle that's going to be in your energy slot, and this is a gun that in PvE and PvP I was definitely very shocked by. So let's start off in the PvE side of things. This is a very fast firing pulse rifle that is in the energy slot, so you can use the burns to your advantage. And if you can roll this with Outlaw, and if you can roll this with Rampage or with Kill Clip or with whatever, this is going to be a great pulse rifle that can compete with some of the best pulse rifles in the game because of how fast firing it is. You can really smack the trigger and really just mow into ads and really take people down really fast. And going on to the PvP side of things, it's honestly the same thing. The handling is very underrated on the gun. It's a very easy gun to use, even though it shoots pretty fast. And if you can get 1 or 2 kills, you can really get going on it. It's a gun that if you have Rampage or Kill Clip, like I said, you're going to be mowing people down super fast because the bursts are just super quick. And even though I felt like sometimes I was still being gunned down by Bygones or by, let's say, the Broadsword, it's still, I was winning a good amount of gunfights with it, and I don't even use the gun that much. So I feel like if I was to practice with it, it could become a very competitive gun. And the fact that it is in the secondary slot once again means that you can use a Chaperone, you can use a Botheration, you can use Dust Rock Blues. There's a lot of different combinations you can use because of the fact that it's in the energy slot. So I do think this gun is not seeing the love that it deserves, and maybe that's because a lot of people aren't grinding it, or maybe people just like the other pulse rifles better because stat wise they still are better. But this also is a gun where if you don't have that right Bygones, that right Go Figure or Chattering Bone or whatever gun you're looking for, this is a gun that you can use until you find one of those guns. And I really do believe that you may fall in love with it, because I don't even like pulse rifles, I'm a hand cannon guy, but I had a lot of fun recording some of this footage. So definitely a really good gun, excuse me, and a gun deserving of the number 2 slot. And that only leaves us with the number 1 slot. And for the final Nightfall exclusive weapon, the one that I rank the best, the one that's the most sought after, the one that's gonna get you multi-kills in Crucible and also make you a PvE legend, is the exotic Nightfall exclusive drop, the Edge Transit. And that is a hard one to get. Okay, I'm done. I'm sorry. That was the last Edge Transit joke, as I feel like it's kind of wore out its welcome and we're almost in Black Armory. I just thought I would just drop it one more time. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead and unsubscribe now. I apologize. It's the Mindbender's Ambition, and the only reason this one trumped it is because of just how much of a beast this thing is in PvP. But the Mindbender's Ambition, the only shotgun that's a Nightfall weapon, is just on a different level. The range for it is great. You can really map people really well with it in PvP. It's just great for secondary shotguns where you can use a Duke or you can use any type of primary like Bygones and then use this gun in the secondary slot. It's definitely gonna fulfill your needs if you get a good roll with it. If you can use a ranged masterwork to really even give it that extra bit of range, I think you're gonna be good to go on this weapon, guys. It handles well. It's just an overall good gun. I don't even have a great roll for it yet, and I love the roll that I have, and it's not even that great, like I said. And the cool thing about this gun too is, guys, is there is a farm technique that you can use on the Nightfall for the Mindbender's Ambition, where you can continue to kill yourself once the chest opens, and you can farm it all day long. And it's been the Nightfall for countless Nightfalls or countless weeks, excuse me. So I know a lot of people already have it, but if you don't have it, I strongly suggest you get the Mindbender's Ambition. It also performs pretty well in PvE, but the thing is, guys, in terms of non-full auto shotguns, I feel like they're really falling out of the PvE meta, I would say, as it's just so much better to have a full auto shotgun that's firing over and over and over. I think the only non-full auto shotgun that can compete in PvE is Legend of Acreus, and that thing's in the heavy slot for a reason. And so that's the only gun that's not full auto that I still think can compete with the best of shotguns, but that's kind of my point on that. I think that it definitely isn't the best gun for PvE, as I would still definitely choose the Ikelos SG over the Mindbender's Ambition any day. But overall, guys, just because of how much of a beast it is in PvP and the fact that it's also no pushover in PvE, it's just not the best. I think that overall this is the best weapon that you guys should go grind for. But overall, I think you guys should go for all of these weapons just for the collection's sake of things, and a lot of these weapons will have very defined uses in certain parts of the game, and I think you guys will enjoy each of these weapons. So get in the comment box below, guys. Let me know first, what's your favorite Nightfall weapon and which ones are you still looking for? I'm curious to see which ones you're still grinding for, and also let me know what your list is. What do you think the best Nightfall weapon is in the game, and what do you think the worst Nightfall weapon is in the game? So I tried to do it based not off of perks but the actual potential of these guns, because not everybody's going to have all the curated rules, so I tried to stay very non-biased, and I only talked about certain perks if it was the old non-Forsaken Nightfall weapons, as those perks are static and they don't change. But as for the other ones, it's very random, so get in the comment box below, like I said, let me know about those choices. If you did find this video helpful, definitely leave it a like, guys, and subscribe, as it really helps the channel out. I appreciate all the support, guys. Can't wait to see you guys on the charity stream on Friday, and with that, I'm gonna talk to you guys in the next Destiny video. Thanks, I love you guys.
Destructo dish just like I'm Krillin, yeah. I'm presidential like I'm Reagan, yeah. I'm outer space, it's Armageddon, yeah. And take a shot